Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with The Golden Age of the Symphony, Volume 6, 1950 to 1959. I think it's interesting. As we get closer to where we are in time, we don't often think of great works. We just don't. We think of great works as being somehow older, much older, vastly older. But the reality is that there was incredible music being written all the time, and there still is. And in the 1950s, the fabulous 50s, wow, what a cool list of stuff we've got here. I mean, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and this is only 10. There's lots more, which I know you will contribute. And do try to contribute great works that have, a chance of entering the repertoire. If you think about not just, oh, I love this, things that have that certain je ne sais quoi, that je ne sais, So here we have 10 fabulous symphonies from the 1950s. First, Peter Menin, Symphony No. 5. Peter Mennin had a burst of popularity a few years ago, a decade and a half ago or so, with some Delos recordings and whatnot, especially his concertato called Moby Dick, which is wonderful. He was a very, very good composer. He was in charge of the Juilliard School before Schumann got his hands on it. And I think his music is absolutely excellent. Absolutely fine. He was a neoclassicist, although later in his career he became somewhat more expressionistic. I mean, to great advantage, actually. A lot of nice, angry, gnarly music, really fun to listen to. But his Fifth Symphony is an absolutely beautiful work. It was recorded as part of that Mercury Living Presence series of the Eastman Rochester Orchestra under Howard Hanson, and he deserves to be better known. I would certainly investigate his music, look into it if you can. I think you'll find a lot there to listen to. His style is contrapuntal and somewhat reserved at this stage in his career, but really vibrant and full of good ideas, carefully and effectively worked out. I really enjoy his music. And after that, something totally different. So that's 1950. We're starting off the decade. 1951, Henri Dutilleux, Symphony No. 1. He only wrote 2 symphonies. The first is marvelous. It begins with a stunning Passacaglia, ends with a series of variations. It ends softly, which of course is the kiss of death. But it is a brilliant piece of music by a real powerful composer with a compelling personal voice. His style is indefinable. It's somewhat avant-garde-ish. It's not always tonal, but it's very texturally aware and carefully written, and it, at essential points it always seems to come up to some sort of clinching tonal expressive thing, and you hear that in this symphony quite a bit. It's wonderful, absolutely a wonderful work. Next, Vaughan Williams, his Sinfonia Antarctica. Now, Vaughan Williams died in the 1950s, so his 8th and 9th symphonies also happened in the 1950s. But I wanted to put the Symphonia Antarctica in there because it is, it starts to make the point or make the case that composers who worked in the film industry and who wrote for films created some of the best music of the 20th century. Music of incredible atmosphere and rich invention, even when they didn't write symphonies themselves. And we're going to get to some of that, by the way, in the golden age remember, this series is called the Golden Age of the Orchestra. Symphonies are only the first phase of what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be doing all kinds of music, and film music is going to figure prominently, I promise you. I really do. So the Symphonia Antarctica is a brilliant symphony constructed of the movie music from the film Scott of the Antarctic. There's a question whether Antarctica has a C in it or not. It can go either way. It's not one way is right and one way is wrong. But anyway, there it is from 1952, and it is just so much fun. Oh, it's gorgeous. Next, Chavez, the Sinfonia Romantica, his Symphony No. 4 of 1953. Carlos Chavez wrote 6 symphonies. The most famous, of course, is the Sinfonia India. It's an early work, and Sinfonia di Antigona, his first 2. symphonies. After that, he became more abstract, and because he was more abstract and less obviously Mexican nationalist sounding, his later symphonies tended to be ignored. But the Sinfonia Romantica is a wonderful work, and definitely something that deserves to be better known by a composer who is known as a symphonist. So it shouldn't take too much effort to bring into the picture some of his other pieces. Shostakovich, Symphony No. 10, 1953, regarded by many to be Shostakovich's greatest symphonies. One of the few with an unabashedly happy ending, written in the wake of the death of Stalin, when you can hear Shostakovich breathe a huge sigh of relief and just go, yes, maybe things are going to be better. Well, they weren't, of course not. Nothing is ever that simple, but he did come out with some of his greatest works in the early 50s. The First Violin Concerto, this as a case in point, and it's Shostakovich's last great non-programmatic symphony. Well, I mean, the 15th is non-programmatic, except it has so many references to other things that you kind of wonder. But remember, 11 and 12 are socialist, realist, historical things, and 13 and 14 are vocal. So with the 10th, we are at the summit of Shostakovich's mastery of the abstract symphony, and it is, I mean, everybody agrees it's just a knockout of a piece. So there you go. Martinu, his last symphony, Symphony No. 6, Fantaisies symphoniques, written for the Boston Symphony, and Charles Munch, who made a stunning recording of it. It was composed in 1953, and it is a masterpiece. It's another piece that's so personal, so rich in sonic interestingness. It's such a thrill to hear. And it really is his most popular symphony. It gets played most frequently, even though it ends quietly, which is the kiss of death. And although I have to say, the quiet ending is so effective, it works so well, and it doesn't take too long to get there, that it's all just of a piece. It's perfect. I've actually seen the piece performed a couple of times, which is kind of a miracle, and it's very, very effective. Just a huge masterpiece that should be far better known than it is. Then we've got another Symphony No. 6, Walter Piston, his sixth of 1955, also written for the Boston Symphony and Charles Munch, and recorded on the other side of the same album that contains Martinu's Symphony No. 6. We played Piston Symphony No. 6, and oh gosh, it was fun. Really, really fun. It's a delightful work. It's full of wonderful licks for all of the sections of the orchestra, and some gorgeous melodic writing, beautiful melodic writing in the slow movement, and a sort of American style Wild West finale. Just a joy from beginning to end. Absolutely marvelous. So there's that one. Then we've got Hovhannes, Symphony No. 2, Mysterious Mountain of 1955. This was the piece that made his career. And it is gorgeous. He then went on to write 60 or 70 more symphonies that all sound roughly similar, or many of them do. Not all of them. I shouldn't exaggerate. But his style is entirely personal. It consists of modal harmony and lots of contrapuntal writing, fugues and things like that. That are extremely simple in construction, but effective in performance, along with modernist elements such as sort of aleatoric things where everybody plays something different simultaneously. And really he was a major personality in 20th century music. Not everybody will tolerate it, but he had a voice, and he knew how to use that voice effectively. And his best music is as good as anything anybody was writing in the period. And Symphony No. 2 is one of those works. The Reiner recording with the Chicago Symphony, of course, is the iconic version, and it still is absolutely outstanding, although it's been recorded many times since then. Then Roger Sessions. So I'm doing a few American things now, because the American symphonists really got going in the 40s and 50s. 30s, 40s, and 50s, and they still get no credit here in the United States or just about anywhere else, which is a terrible, terrible shame, because they wrote masterpieces. Sessions was a terrific symphonist. He wrote in Schoenberg's 12-tone style. Eventually, he got there after the Third Symphony, basically. And his music is he once said he never wrote a piece of music where he couldn't sing the tunes, which kind of begged the question of what his voice was actually like. I mean, but they are wonderful, wonderfully taut, exciting, expressive pieces of music for the most part. I mean, I'm not saying everything is equally wonderful, but by and large, I mean, I've heard all 9 of them, and they are very, very serious works. And the third is a transitional piece, as was the second, which was recorded by Blomstedt in San Francisco. That was from like 10 years before. And the third was recorded by Igor Bukatov, and I think the Royal Film. It was on this RCA Modern Music series. It still was. It was later repurposed on CRI Records, Composers Recordings. So it was out there. Whether it ever gets any more attention, I don't know. It deserves to. It has really a wonderful sequence of movements that are colorfully scored, and you can follow it. I mean, so it's atonal. Who cares? I mean, it's good, expressive music with a fun finale, by the way, that ends with a tonal cadence. It's like all going crazy. Then all of a sudden it goes cha-da-da-da-bum-ba-da-dum, and you go, ooh, okay, yeah, the ending is the ending. And last but not least, George Lloyd, his Symphony No. 7, Proserpine, or Proserpina, if you want to pronounce it that way, from 1959. Now, Lloyd had been going all along, and I really wanted to bring up his 5th symphony, the great symphonies of the 40s, after he recovered from his near-death experience in World War II. His 4th, his 5th, marvelous works. But the 7th is a gorgeous piece of music. It also ends quietly, which is, of course, the Kiss of Death. And it has something of a program about renewal and the change of seasons and things like that. But it's a powerful, somewhat tragic piece in its central movements. Lovely scoring, wonderful melodies. And Lloyd is a composer, of course, who only became popular in the last 20 years, 30 years, at the end of his life. He'd been completely neglected and ignored. He was getting trashed by the BBC, which was, resolutely avant-garde and wasn't going to touch him with a 10-foot pole. But eventually, it's just as I've always said, the cream rises to the top. And after the atonal avant-garde basically, committed suicide musically, we had, tonal composers who've been working all along, some of whom were geniuses and who wrote masterpieces. And Lloyd was one of them, one of the great 20th century symphonists. And he deserves, then, to be on the list. So keep on listening, friends. I'm interested to have your contributions to the fabulous 50s. Take care.